It's some intro music.
This is
And
fine.
now,
I'm just gonna edit all of this out.
now a discussion of Captain Falcon and the Winter Soldier with Hachi, Star Shadow, and Kurt Jacobs. Episode 2, The Star Spangled Banner.
Oh goodness!
No, too much.
No, well, I'm gonna. You know what? I'm gonna record that. I'm gonna take that audio sample. I'm gonna put that in front of every single one of our episodes now. Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Gaymer Pups. So we're talking today about episode 2 of Falcon and the Winter Soldier. I caught myself. And so we are joined by our usual crew. We have Star Shadow on my right, and we have Dad on the bottom. I'm not joined by Cruz today, unfortunately. And Cruz's opinion would be amazing, but we will have to save it for the next episode. So usual spoiler warning: if you haven't watched the second episode of Falcon and the Winter Soldier, which is titled Star Spangled Man, pause, go watch that episode, and then come join us, because the spoilers start now. So it's a little bit of a cold opening. We start at a locker room with this really cool, I almost thought it was kind of like this opening thing going on, right? With the zipper, the slow zipper going down, the visual effects is like the tension is really ripe in that moment. So it was just a perfect way to start that episode. And we find out that we're in the locker room of John Walker's hometown back when he was a high school kid and he was playing football. And so we get a little bit of a look of... we know that we're in John Walker's hometown in his high school, and we have another character that comes in and basically talking to him. He talks to his wife. In this scene, you can definitely see that there is a lot of tension, specifically with John. And clearly there is just weight there, and like the boots to fill of Captain America, and then he talks to his friend and basically saying, I've been doing this. I kind of, this is essentially what I've dreamed of, and he doesn't seem to be happy with this like press release tour that he's doing. He's not. He doesn't feel the Cher vibe. You know what I'm saying? And so his friend is telling him like, "Hey, man, this is more than just fighting, right?"
Well, I have to say that when they were doing that slow zipper pull down, I was like, lower. Like, I don't know who it was attached to, and I was like, come on, lower. But yeah, this is an interesting introduction to John Walker, because obviously all we saw of him in the last episode was like him, the scrunchy little face who looked like the guy from the old man from Up, right? He's like,
yeah,
and there were all these memes of that going on.
The memes that last episode generated were kind of funny. Yes, everybody with the old man in the Up and the Captain America helmet, that was funny.
But yeah, the character Lamar, who plays Battlestar, yes, he came in and I was like, that's Bucky and that's Captain America.
Yes.
And that was exactly the dynamic that they ended up with. But it was good. I mean, overall, I think they actually gave him a very interesting introduction and kind of set that up and kind of like set up his, he actually mirrors a lot of what Steve Rogers felt, which was that, I'm not really worthy of this, but, and I think they also set him up as he's not just some schmo that they picked up, that he has, especially once they got into the scene outside with the band and the captain, the Good Morning America, which, oh my God, when they panned over the video screen and it was like ABC right there. And I was like, wow, they just couldn't ABC. Like they had to make sure they plugged some of the corporate synergy in there somewhere,
Yep.
Like, I bet ABC was like, please, Marvel, please just put us in that video somewhere, please. You can use us. You don't have to use that fake news network that you created way back when. You can actually use a real news network. But they gave him his introduction. I thought all that was great. They showed, that he's not Steve Rogers, but he's at least somewhat worthy of what they've got for him. So I liked it overall.
It was kind of funny seeing that they actually pulled out ABC for this intro, and it was just like, I forget the woman's name, but she is an actual anchor on Good Morning America, isn't she?
Yeah. I think so. I swear to God, she looks like the Good Morning America lady.
Yeah, and there was a lot of he's definitely experienced the whole, he was kind of thrust into this situation, anxiety. Kind of did something of a time skip where it was like he had action figures all set now. Where's the time frame there?
Yeah, I want to know how they were able to turn around Captain America figures so quickly, and they couldn't get us Grogu figures like in a timely manner after fucking Mandalorian came out.
Oh my goodness!
Are you kidding me? Like that would have been like a week.
So after the locker room scene, after Battlestar, I forgot his actual name.
Lamar
was basically telling John Walker that the suit comes with expectations. That is, he's not just, Mr. Punchy, that he's essentially the man with the plan, Star Spangled Man. There's a little drop to the title there. The interesting thing I want to point out about this is right after that locker room scene, we get the Marvel logo. And the one thing I've been enjoying about these episodes is they play around with that logo a lot. There's always something happening while the logo is doing its thing. And then this time around, it was this kind of band arrangement of the Captain America theme song, also titled Star Spangled Man, from Captain America First Avengers. So that was really cool. I kind of like that. So, like Dad mentioned, there's an interview, and you're kind of introduced to John as a very humbled person. So I was a little bit kind of surprised here because I'm so used to anytime that the government gets involved in anything, it gets kind of crazy when Marvel is involved. So to see that they kind of, or at least at this point, introduced a very humble character. He's gotten 4 Purple Hearts or something like that, or Medal of Honors or something. He's very decorated.
I think it was Medal of Honors.
Yeah, he's very decorated. They never really revealed what force, armed forces he worked with, but yeah, he's very decorated. He talks about that he's not trying to be Steve. He's trying to be his own Captain America. There is a montage of his training, which, damn, he got really good with that shield.
He really did.
And during this entire time, this lady is like, so you've always wanted to be a hero, right? And this is the seeds that I've been kind of waiting for with John Walker's character. I was always wondering what they were going to do with his character, because his character has this very specific history in the Marvel comics, right? But I'm thinking here, and what's also obviously shown in the rest of the episode, is that he develops a really, really, really big hero complex, and that gets shown in volumes for the rest of the episode. So while all of this is happening, Bucky is, because the question we all had last week is, how the fuck is Bucky gonna take it? And you know what? He took it exactly as I thought he was. Absolutely fucking horrified. The look that he had on his face, it felt so now, I was fucking shocked too. I felt I saw Bucky, I was like, oh, Bucky, no, this sucks for you. So yeah.
So hurt by that.
It was a heavy scene to start off with. And especially the last statement before we cut away to the next scene was, he almost felt like a brother, right? Which to me is spitting in Bucky's face. which is just insane. I never met him, but to me, he felt like a brother. Some really, really powerful words there that just was wrong. And so the next scene, we are in the mission hangar. Sam is kind of being walked around by Torres. We don't really know exactly what he's doing at this point, right? He runs into Bucky, and I think one of my favorite lines is dropped here, which we finally get to know what the big three are. If you don't know what the big three are, you know what they are now. And this is a priceless scene, because obviously Bucky's here, he's mad, and Sam just wants to get on with his life. He wants to do what he's there to do.
It's interesting that this is how we kind of get Bucky on board with what Sam is doing. It was just like, hey, what the hell were you thinking when you gave away the shield? Like, why did you give away the shield? What did you think was going to happen?
Yeah, it was. I laughed because I was like, how the hell did Bucky get on the base? Like, he's not a government agent anymore. He just walked on? Like, he was just showed up at the hangar? Like, he's not supposed to be he's not military anymore. How the hell did he get in there? And he's like, I'm coming with you. And it's like, aren't there rules and regulations on this kind of shit? Like, can you just stow away on board the flight, you know? And I understand, he's like, they kind of mentioned it later. We're both free agents. And it's like, okay, but he's got a pardon, and I'm sure there's rules around him not engaging in doing shit like this. So it doesn't seem like he should be doing that. But I did laugh about the big three, what was it? Aliens, androids, and wizards.
Aliens, androids, and wizards.
Yeah. And I'm like, there really should be enhanced humanoids in there too, because they fought quite a few enhanced people too, like Wanda. Yep. I know Wanda's technically a wizard, but Pietro wasn't a wizard, and he's not an android or an alien, so there should be 4, I think, categories. I think Sam's missing one there, and we haven't gotten into mutants yet. So
Wanda and Pietro were technically working with an android, so
that's true, and they were technically enhanced by magic. So to speak.
I also love that Bucky actually read the first edition of The Hobbit.
And that's funny because what I've read online is that people were saying that the original edition came out in 1937 and it was only available in England. Right? And so he would have either had to have it imported or somehow gotten a hands on a copy of it, because it didn't actually come in the United States until 1938. So it was either a fuck up on the writer's part, and they used the wrong date, or they're trying to imply that he really is a serious hardcore sci-fi adventure fan.
He's a nerd.
I'm almost wondering if they're implying that he picked up the book while he was out on tour, because this was during World War II. So I'm wondering if this is something he read while he was James Buchanan Barnes, not before Winter Soldier.
Yeah, but that's possible.
Didn't the U.S. get involved in the 40s, not 30s?
Yeah, man, I don't know. That's you're absolutely right. So yeah, like it was mentioned before, we have Sam. Sam is going on his mission. Bucky's like, hey dude, what do you think was gonna happen? Why did you let it go? See, and I think at this point you're kind of seeing these two guys, and it's really hard to pick a side, right? Like, is it I don't know how it is for you guys, but for me, I'm torn because, there are moments where I'm mad at Bucky because I feel like I just want to say hey man, he was just doing his thing. He, what he thought he was doing was what he needed to do, right? He made a mistake. There's no need to get bent out of shape about it, right? And then at the other hand, I look at Sam and I'm just like, you dumb motherfucker. You just let this damn shield go, and now, this guy has it. So that segues into this next section, which I'm kind of splitting up into two sections here. We have Munich, Germany. They're on their way there, and when they get there, and then we have which would be the big action scene of this episode. So Sam and Bucky, they're arguing on the plane. You know what? Until Dad pointed out, I still now I'm thinking, how the fuck did he get on that plane? See, but
he just walked on. He was like, "I'm going with you."
He is a sleeper agent. I mean, not an assassin, so he could be sneaky. Who knows? So he gets on a plane. They have some friendly banter, a little bit back and forth, but it's starting to go from friendly banter to a little bit of hostility. Sam just doesn't want to deal with it. He wants Bucky out of his hair. He goes off, does his thing, and Bucky goes after him because Bucky wants answers, and that's understandable. They have two vastly different approaches to take down the Flag Smashers, which is the reason why they're in Munich, Germany, putting them in their first confrontations with the Flag Smashers. So Sam makes fun of Bucky because Bucky's being all sneaky now, and he's like, "Look at you! You spend a couple of months in Wakanda, and now you're the White Panther." And then, and then Bucky kind of snaps back with, "Actually, it's White Wolf." And Sam is like, "Wait, what?" Which is an awesome comeback because I honestly thought that was I mean, he does actually in the comics go by White Wolf for a very tiny bit. It was a bit of a throwaway name drop in one of the post-credits scenes for Civil War, right? You kind of wasn't really expecting it, and I didn't think that was going to come back, but it did, and I really like that.
I think they did refer to Bucky as White Wolf in Infinity War, so.
It's Infinity War, yeah.
Well, first of all, Bucky has fantastic landing skills.
So for reference, Bucky tears off his shirt because he doesn't have a parachute. So he jumps off this airplane and decides to grab onto branches and twigs falling down and literally just smacks on the ground.
Yeah, I died of laughter when he landed on the ground and then Red Wing came in and flew over, and it was he was like, I got all that on video, right? And it was that was super funny. But yeah, when they were in the warehouse and they were sneaking around, Bucky's very used to. I mean, look at if you look at his take his flashback in episode 1, right? He literally just busted through the walls, grabbed guys, shot them, jumped over the railings, fell onto the. He's way more aggressive when it comes to this kind of stuff. And Sam is much more stealthy, wants to see what's going on, but and the good thing is, honestly, if Sam hadn't have held him back, they wouldn't have necessarily known what was going on with the they would have probably would have gotten their asses handed them at the warehouse, but they wouldn't have necessarily known what was happening next, that they were stealing this whatever is in these vaccines. They think it's vaccines, right? And that's kind of where we're at this point, and taking off with it. It makes more sense to follow them than just to try to arrest them right then and there, because you want to find out where they're taking it, where they're going, and what's the next link in the chain. So, because if they just stop them now, it's you catch the drug dealers in the house, you're not going to get the drug lord, kind of a thing. So it was good. I like the overall the banter and everything with that scene was funny. What
comes here is a really good action scene that we can expect from these kind of shows. It's very classic Marvel, high stakes, high tension battle scene. There is a lot of crazy shit that happens in this scene, not just but to them, but to other characters that just appear.
Yeah. So the I was laughing because Bucky runs to the truck, grabs on, pulls one of the levers off, opens up the door. There's another truck right behind him. No one is "Hey, asshole! What are you doing?" Nothing. It's the driver's just what? I don't think they should be doing that. And he goes in there and he meets Carly. And I love the fact that she kind of played innocent for a minute, because she is Flag Smasher. Mm-hmm. She's the gendered changed Flag Smasher character. That's Carl was his name. So it is interesting, and I love the reveal that they all have super strength. Like how enhanced they are, it's still a little bit kind of up in the air, but clearly they have, the reflexes and the strength and everything. And yeah, actually that action scene was great. Captain America shows up. He is dead on with that fucking shield, like a little too dead on in my opinion, but it's pretty, like, all I could think about that whole scene was reminds me of the freeway scene from The Matrix 2.
Oh my God! Yes,
with Morpheus and the agent and Neo and Trinity and the Keymaker and everything, and it just had all that vibe. In my opinion, I loved the whole thing. It was great. So yeah, you definitely get to see a little bit more of how John's carrying a gun, which is not unusual for a Captain America character, but he shot one of the guys instead of just knocking him out. So I think the guy had Lamar was going to do something to him and he shot him. So it's a little bit of a change of tone for the Captain America.
And can we have a moment of silence here, because I'm pretty sure that Red Wing is dead. I mean, there's nothing left of Red Wing.
That was funny. That was super funny when Bucky went, "Oh, I don't want to." Like, I don't understand why.
Like I said, foreshadowing.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, as Dad was mentioning, the Flag Smashers, they're enhanced for some reason. They surround Bucky, and here comes Sam. Well, here comes Red Wing first. And then Carly, which is the Flag Smasher, comes in and literally just grabs Red Wing from mid-flight, smashes it into pieces on her knee. That was incredible. And yeah, Bucky's quip right after that, it was funny, but at the same time, it's like, it's sad because it's Red Wing, and it was such a comedic element, and I'm not sure if they're gonna bring it back.
It was definitely like classic Marvel action. I love the bit where after what was John Walker threw the shield and Bucky just goes and catches it. I immediately got a flashback to Winter Soldier.
Oh yeah.
I want to say it was a little bit of a shock to see that like all of them were enhanced.
It is an interesting question to find out where they're getting the power, their enhancements from. So Sam, who's supposed to be the new Cap, saves Bucky because Bucky's in trouble. And then Lamar, or Battlestar, also too is in trouble. And then John Walker goes and saves him. And this is where you kind of get the first hints that John's cockiness is going to be his downfall. He could have been a little bit more tactically, I don't know, he could have thought better than literally just running at Flag Smasher with essentially open arms. He left his entire midsection defenseless, and she took advantage of that hella hardcore and just kicked him off the fucking truck.
Yeah, they kind of like picking up from the banter that's been going on back and forth between the two of them. It was funny. I can see the gears are turning and now they're on fire and stuff. And you can tell that there's some tension between them, obviously. And whether that be like because he gave up the shield, because Steve gave Sam the shield and not Bucky, or whatever the case is, Bucky trying to right his wrongs and trying to do that kind of stuff. But when John shows up and they get in the car with him, and you start to get a little bit more of a sense that John is a little bit of a cocky asshole. More so, I think, than I thought. Like, I thought in that first scene, they kind of set him kind of like, I just want to be a good guy. And now you start to see a little bit of the peeling back a little bit, which as the episode goes on and towards the very end, then you get to see more of that, right? So I liked that scene overall, but again, it was good setup between Bucky and Sam. And then again, kind of the little bit more setup with Lamar and John. and the four of them basically. And you should work for us. You should come over and work for us. You guys would be great, like. And they're both like, we're Avengers. Fuck you.
Like I said last week, he is pretty much the Guy Gardner of Marvel right now. It was also kind of a slap in the face that he was kind of recreate the Howling Commandos with Funky there too.
Theoretically, it is beneficial from a logical standpoint to see all four of them work together because it's kind of like a mini Avengers group, right? But John is not really considering the feelings or what's happening around him. John is really self-absorbed, and you can start seeing that here. Like Dad said, the peeling back is happening. You can start seeing that what's important to him is that he is that symbol. He wants to be that symbol, and he is happy that he can be that symbol. You find out that the reason why they even get there is because they hacked Red Wing. Falcon didn't take that kindly, and John is like, well, you know what? It's government property, so you can't really complain. This is abuse of power and authority that gets repeated actually a lot in this episode. I think Cruz is wondering, like, why do people want to get things back to the way they were? And I think this scene kind of answers that. So, pre-blip, everybody was gone because of the snap, right? And then post-blip, people come back and people are living in people's houses and all that stuff. So here comes the GRC that comes in, and they help with sharing resources and relocating people and essentially trying to get post-blip people back to their lives and the displaced people somewhere, right? Which is strange. This conflict is extremely unique. I've never seen something like this.
Yeah, the Global Relocation Council, I think that's what it stands for, the GRC. Because this also kind of ties into like you said, kind of like what the Flag Smashers are after, which is you kind of get the impression with like the Flag Smashers are not, at least at this point in this episode, and I am going a little bit further ahead with when they're not organized. I mean, they're not organized in a way that they are like got mega money, right?
Right.
And they're like staying at their secret lair. They're basically being sheltered by just regular people, and they're being fed by regular people because they don't have any organizational power at this point. And there is a very interesting dynamic there. Why exactly? And I kind of get the impression that like you said, that they're throwing all this money and resources at the people that came back and not paying attention to the people who had been left behind, or that were left like they were like raptured. The people that were raptured and came back, they're not really focused on the people that got left behind. And I can see why that would piss some people off. It's kind of like when you look at the refugee crisis in Europe over the last couple of years, and even here in the United States, there are people that are saying, why are we spending time and money and effort trying to protect and help these people who are refugees? Because we want to help from our government. Like, why are we helping people that need the help at the border when we have people here in the United States who can't fucking make the ends meet and live? So there's some dynamic there, which I think is also politically relevant right now and over the last few years with all the refugees and stuff that's been going on from anywhere from like shit going on in South America to the Syrian refugee crisis in Europe and stuff like that. So it's I can see why they're pissed, but we don't know anything about the GRC to know if they really are good guys. Or if they are really bad guys. And it could go both ways, right? Maybe the Flag Smashers, they seem like bad guys. Clearly there's someone after them, as we'll talk about later. But we don't really know if their intentions are malicious, or if they're really trying to do something for the greater good.
Yeah, and so that's the explanation we have on the GRC at the time. That, even till the end of the episode, that's all the information we have of the GRC right now. And I feel like we're going to get dripped fed this information as the show goes on, because it's clearly it's world building, it's setting up, and we'll explore that as the characters themselves learn. So continuing in this uncomfortable ride, John is trying to justify himself, justify his actions, doing all these things, and then he says, his friend introduces himself. His name is Lamar. Lamar Hoskins, and he says that he's Battlestar. Which at that point, I think things kind of click in Bucky's head, where he looks at Cap or John, and he looks at Lamar, and then he just feels like he got replaced. I feel like that's how I would have felt. Bucky with all his rights decides to get out, and he's just like, I'm done with this, right? And again, John, in a last minute attempt to kind of justify his reasonings for everything, says, hey, I know this is a shock. I know I didn't want the shield. I know blah, 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 blah. I didn't know you want. But then he ends with, it would be a lot easier with Cap's wingmen at my side. John just doesn't, I feel like John doesn't understand the impact of his words. Because even Sam at that point was just like, you done fucked up. You expect because because somebody labeled you Captain America that you now have access to Bucky and me, which is not the case. And within reason, they leave. And then we get to this section about where there's the Flag Smashers, and we get to understand what they're doing and how they're being helped. As Dad mentioned earlier, they're getting helped by locals. They're kind of like this band of misfits. There's a small group of them that do arrange larger raids, like we saw in the last episode. But the core Flag Smashers is like, I would say 10. I didn't get the exact number, but it's a small group. A lot of the people that help them out say, anything for a cause. They're calling them freedom fighters, which is interesting because freedom fighters is a very obviously a positive word for people who are getting oppressed. So this means that there are people here that clearly think they're being oppressed. And we're not talking about Flag Smashers associate people. We're talking about just civilians. And then it's mentioned that that we're trying to avoid putting the assholes in power, and that the GRC care more about the people who came back than those who stayed.
Yeah, this was it was interesting. And like I said, it definitely, you get to understand that they are not some well-financed, high-power, structured organization, and they are literally, they're doing it based on the generosity, almost like the Avengers. Like they kind of commented in the first episode that kind of based on the generosity of other people, kind of like the Avengers were. And I love that her face when she's like, I made chicken livers and crackers, and she's like, they actually kind of throw some sympathy their way, because there's definitely something going on there that they're not the maniacal bad guys here, I don't think necessarily. I mean, as things go on, they may obviously reveal more, but they did something. They stole something from someone, and this is where she get that text in that moment too. They stole something from someone, and they're pissed about it. So, and they started like scrubbing their faces off of like social media and like posters and stuff like that, and the cops are after them. So, they are definitely scared, and they're definitely running. So, yeah, it's pretty interesting. I'm curious as to see how this plays out, because again, we don't know anything about the GRC, and you think large government agencies like SHIELD that turned out to be Hydra.
Yep.
And there's some type of like fuckery going on there. So it'll be interesting to see what happens next.
Definitely do see how they can be sort of labeled as not exactly good or evil. They're more morally gray because of how they want to bring things back and how they're going about doing it. Also, the fact that she was actually told that people are calling her a Robin Hood type figure now.
Are the Flag Smashers good? I mean, they're clearly not doing good things, but is the cause of what they're fighting for right? Is there a problem that's there that not many people are seeing? And it could that could be it. But again, we still don't have enough information. So Bucky's determined at this point. He's just like, let's just take the damn shield, man. And Sam just kind of puts him in his place, saying like, hey, we can't mess with the government. We can't do that. Because messing with the government, it's just going to put them back on as a wanted person, a la Civil War.
Well, the shield kind of does actually belong to Sam, who obviously gave it up and put it in the Smithsonian. And it's like, why did the government just go around and say, oh, hey, we need this right after the bank got robbed? And now it's like, oh, we've got this new Captain America who's totally awesome. Should take back the shield, but would it be the right thing to do?
I kind of agree that there's I think the whole premise of the show is taking back the shield, but the right way, right? Because they steal the shield, they're criminals, and they're never going to get any arrests. And Sam's point, he's like, I don't want to live like that again. So this is about getting the shield back the right way and becoming the Captain America that Sam should be. And I think that's where, Bucky basically says, let's just steal it, which again, it's kind of like that would have been his MO. It's like someone would have said, go get this from me. And he would have gone and gotten it.
That's true.
But I think the reveal is the next episode. The next scene is a setup in Sam's acceptance that he can be Captain America.
Yeah, so the next scene is wild. We transition over to Baltimore, Maryland, in looks like a very black neighborhood of Baltimore. And there's this funny scene, right? It's like they're trying to break the tension because they know you're about to get into a really tough scene. But I think this is an important exchange between him and the kid because there's something that comes up very often, especially when you have these kind of racial changes between characters in comics. And I think they pointed it out in this scene to highlight how silly it is. So you have this kid who he recognizes Sam immediately. He's like, hey, it's the Black Falcon. And Sam goes, oh no, you mean the Falcon? And he goes, no, man, my dad says it's the Black Falcon. And then Sam is like, what, because I'm black and the Falcon? And the kid's like, basically. And then he goes, well, I guess you must be Black Kid. I was dying. And the reason why this is funny is because back when Steve passed on the mantle to actual Sam in the comics, everybody like referred to him as Black Captain America. Oh, there's a Black Captain America now. Oh, not the white one, the black one, which is it's silly. He should be he's the Falcon. He's not Black Falcon because he's black, right? So, I mean, unless you have like a color in your name, like Black Widow for some reason, like it just throwing that in there to just distinguish their skin color is very silly. And then we get to Isaiah's house. So really interesting tidbit. I think Dad knows this already, but the kid who answers the door, do you know who that is, Dad?
I forget his name, but he is a future Young Avenger.
Yep. He is the Patriot.
The Patriot, that's right. I forget what his real name is. Not the actor's name, but the character's name. He is an enhanced person who probably will play into the Young Avengers. So
it's interesting to see how Marvel is setting all of this up. Mm-hmm. These little tiny characters that seem like they're throwaway, like, oh, here's this random person. it's so important that you just remember almost every single character that some random character meets in Marvel movies, because you'll never know when they'll just pop out of nowhere and just be like, suddenly I'm relevant now.
Obviously, Marvel, wants to expand the team, because obviously you can't just have just one Avengers group at any time. It's kind of like there are always multiples. And so you've got, Wiccan and Speed coming out of WandaVision. You've got the Patriot coming out of, Falcon and the Winter Soldier. You've got Casey Lang, who they aged up in Endgame. You're going to have Hawkeye's daughter in the Hawkeye series. She's going to be a big player in that. Ms. Marvel, who's going to be, that's another Marvel series that's coming out.
Yep.
They're very clearly setting all this up.
I didn't even notice that they were building the Young Avengers. I'm here focusing on the A plot, which is essentially like getting the new set of Avengers set up. But yeah, Dad, they're pulling double duty, as Dad's saying. Like they're like, okay, we're setting up the new Avengers team, but on the down low, we're also setting up the Young Avengers, which is really cool. I never really thought about that. That's awesome.
Yeah, it is very exciting. I'm also very excited, and that's the caveat. I'll make this real quick, but with Wiccan, he's like one of the premier gay characters from Marvel. I'm very excited to see what they do with his character for coming out of WandaVision and into future movies and stuff like that. So it'll be interesting to see. Now, obviously, that's not going to be the kid who's going to be playing, probably a little bit older Wiccan. It'll be interesting to see how they do this, kind of pushing all this forward into the Young Avengers.
So Patriot aside, we get into and we meet Isaiah. I don't think they revealed what his last name was, but his name is Isaiah. And you find out that he was an experimental, basically trying to create a Captain America after Captain America was iced. And they've done it on a group of black men. And he was essentially one of the better candidates of this. So the reason why this is such a sad story is it's really sad when you actually look up who Isaiah is and Isaiah's history. Because the writers of Marvel wanted to create a story involving a black Captain America for equality and all that stuff. But they wanted to base it off the Tuskegee men syphilis, the Tuskegee Air Force syphilis men experiment. Which, if nobody knows what that is, here's some dark history of our government. So they purposely put these black individuals together that were airmen from Tuskegee. And they essentially gave them syphilis. And they wanted to study the effects of syphilis on an individual. So they basically gave them syphilis and studied them like lab rats. It was fucking horrible. It is extremely horrible this is real American history. That's not really talked about. So Marvel wanted to essentially bring that to the limelight. So they basically replicated something very similar with Isaiah, and essentially going behind lines and getting gassed and stuff. Like reading his origin story is horrifying. But I think they're not going to pull the punches, obviously, in the MCU verse, but they are putting him a little bit out of time, because in his comic version he was during World War II, and in this one it takes place in the Korean War.
It was a lot. Mostly because I was aware that there was kind of this. Hearing all that was just oof. Ugh. If you were not comfortable with that scene, that you're part of the problem.
Yeah, I definitely get where they were. They kind of like you said, they kind of shifted the time period a little bit to kind of say, look, they continued to experiment and try to create super soldiers, and were successful to some extent. And the comics parallel to the Tuskegee, syphilis group is it's a great parallel because it really does show you what kind of disgusting things the U.S. government will do, and in the name of security at times. So that was great, and I think it was. Like I said it before, it kind of sets up Sam to understand that there have been other super soldiers other than Steve, and that because he was black, they didn't give him credit of the way that they get Steve. And he did stuff like Steve and was a serious threat to Hydra this whole time. So it was a great scene, and I'm hoping that they bring him back into this again before the series is up, and I got a feeling they will. And maybe do a little bit with the kid for the Patriot. So I don't think this will be the last time we're going to see Isaiah.
Sam visibly comes out of that confrontation very, very shaken, very mad and understood. And then just when you think that, I guess I would call this is black trauma, you get hit with a fucking second dose of it, like immediately afterwards. That where the previous scene with Isaiah highlighted, a lot of the atrocities happening in our history as America, like the Tuskegee Airmen. The very immediate thing that happens right afterwards just puts under a microscope what happens on our everyday lives to all people of color. Clearly, Sam's upset. He's upset because nobody told him what was going on. Nobody told there was that information could have been helpful. He could have given that person the shield. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is all being in Sam's head. And then 2 police show up, and they automatically assume that Sam is a black aggressor trying to start an altercation with Bucky, a white man. And the way that entire scene dissolves is a fucking nightmare.
Very much a hard scene to watch. But yeah, no, those cops were definitely profiling Sam, like from the get-go. And then it wasn't until they pretty much said, "Hey, don't you know who this is?" that they were like, oh crap. Sorry.
Yeah, once again, Sam doesn't matter as a black person until he is an Avenger, which, I just feel like Marvel came in and said, well, if you didn't get it in the last episode, you're going to get it fucking now. Because, that was thrown in your face.
Yeah, so the 2 white police officers, the male white police officers show up, and they're like, "Is this guy bothering you?" And they're like, "We need to see your ID." And Sam says, "I'm not giving you my fucking ID." And Bucky's like, "Just give me your ID, And Sam is more like, just cooperate with him. Just what's the problem? And Sam is a black guy who's probably been harassed by police his whole life. Is like, I'm not doing anything wrong. Why the fuck should I cooperate with this bullshit? And again, the cops.
Gun.
Yeah, and the cops are like, "Oh, I'm just going to shoot you." It's a very clear, continuation of the daily struggles that people of color and black men, especially in this country, had to deal with from episode 1, from the bank scene. So I thought it was very good. And, again, like you said, it's the fact that it was the, I'm going to try to say him being an Avenger was the saving grace, so to speak, right?
The turnaround here is that instead of Sam getting arrested, Bucky gets arrested.
Yeah.
Because he's, and now we actually have a confirmation of who Dr. Rayner is. Dr. Rayner is indeed Bucky's parole officer. Because he said, you missed a therapy session with your PO, so we got to take you in. So now the next scene we're at the jail, and Bucky is walking out. He's a free man. Do you know why? Fucking John Walker. In possibly the most uncomfortable scene. I feel like every scene of John Walker consistently gets worse. Like, he starts off really good at the start of the episode, but every time you see him, he's just a fucking nightmare. Like, it just gets worse. In this scene, he's signing autographs, shaking hands, taking selfies. Like, he is throwing his weight around like nobody's business.
Like, Bucky comes out, and it's like, you know, Chuck says to the doctor, "Thanks for getting me out." And she's like, "Oh, I didn't do that. That was that guy." And he's like, "Hey, how's it going?" Click. You know, like, it's definitely cringy. That's the way I say it. And the fact that I also love the fact that she's like, "You're going to come in with me for a counseling session now. Sam, you come with me." And they all prayed off together. So
right off the bat, like, didn't even ask. He's just like, yeah, these people are going to work for me, so they don't need to do this anymore. I need him to be free to do whatever I need him to do. He didn't ask. He didn't discuss. He just came in and just fucking assumed.
He is trying every trick in the book to get on Bucky and Sam's good side, and it's not working whatsoever. He is just he is just way too cringy.
Absolutely. And then we get one of these amazing therapy sessions. I have to say, I kind of just want Dr. Raynor to be like the therapist of the MCU and like just have her own little Disney Plus show where she just gives all the superheroes little fucking therapy sessions. I think that would be amazing.
Oh my god, that would be a great fucking like. But they have them come in and like analyze moments from the movies and the TV shows, and just like have her just rail on them.
So this is another scene that's kind of very well known from the trailers. Is this kind of therapy scene? It's intense. There is a lot of vulnerability in the scene. It is definitely disguised with comedy. There's again. I have to keep reminding myself that anytime Marvel makes me laugh a lot is because they're about to gut punch me. And that's what the scene exactly was. I mean, they're having these couple exercises, which I thought was funny. Yeah. They had,
that fucking made me laugh.
They had the miracle question, which was the first thing for me. I didn't know that existed. And then they had this soul gazing situation, which I thought was hilarious because that was definitely playing to Bucky's strengths. But I think the big thing here was both characters at the end of this confrontation basically explain like what their core issues are.
It's also when you get that gut punch of him sort of venting all of his frustration to Sam about, why when Sam gave up the shield, it was pretty much Sam didn't believe that in everything that Steve saw in him, and that it was also meant that Steve was wrong about everything about what was going on with Bucky. It was I had to rewind that scene just to make sure that I actually heard him say that the first time. It was hard to hear.
It was a little bit. I loved the humor of it. She's great. I hope they bring her back for something at some point. She's kind of like the Catherine Hahn of this episode of this show. She's very funny, and so that was great. But them getting really in each other's space, them locking their legs in and everything, and then them really trying to say like what is grinding on them, so we can hopefully try to see some resolution of that before the end of the season. Which I think we will. I think again, in addition to this being a way to bring them closer together, it is also in addition to them taking the shield, this is also a way for them to bring them closer together, which is interesting because Sebastian Stan has been in the Marvel universe almost from the beginning, and because he was in the first Avengers. He was in the not in the first Avengers movie, but he was in the first Captain America movie, and So he's been in the Marvel universe for a long time. He's never been the focus of the whole movie for himself. He's always been the bad guy or the one they're chasing or kind of a side character and stuff like that. So this is kind of the first time he's taking kind of more of a center stage. And I really like that. But I wasn't totally sure what exactly he was trying to say about if Steve was wrong about you, then Steve was wrong about me. Like that he's redeemable, or like Steve could have given me the shield and give it to you because he felt you were the person for it, and he maybe could have given me the shield but he thought you were better. So I wasn't totally sure there. But either way, obviously Sam giving up the shield and Bucky's feeling somehow reflects badly on him.
Yeah. So the way that I saw this exchange, I thought that because I thought Bucky was essentially saying like, hey man, like Steve is what got me through. Like Steve is who believed in me, who told me that I'm redeemable and that I could be good and I don't have to live in his past. And he chose you. He said, hey, you are you're my next legacy. You have to be the one that carries the shield. And if he wasn't right about his legacy, if he wasn't right about who he's passing his legacy to, then was he wrong about everything else? Like if he was wrong in believing in you, then was he wrong in believing in me? And I think that so the big conflict here, because Sam also has a big vulnerability moment too, like immediately right after he goes, hey, listen, this is a big fucking mantle, and I don't know if I have the courage and the ability to be Steve. Like I can't, like Steve was one of a kind, and I can't try or even come close to be Steve. Now, I think Isaiah is going to motivate him. And I think the ultimate answer here is like, be your own Captain America, be you, right? Because you're already given an example of what a horrible fucking Captain America is. So like, I think Sam is like, I don't want to be like that guy. Do you see how that guy is? Like that's a lot of pressure, and he's clearly buckling under it. So, I didn't want to be that guy. And I don't think you and Steve can understand that because you're so fixated on your fucking legacy. And so I guess the resolution here is that they're going to finish this job, which is take down the Flag Smashers, and then they're never going to see each other again. But I mean, I don't think that's how it's going to end. I think there's clearly going to be more for these two characters. The one interesting thing about Falcon and the Winter Soldier is that you can actually have more than one season of a show with this title. You just put them together again in some other mission, and you pepper in some other MCU characters. You really couldn't do that with WandaVision because you would have to recreate like the unique thing about that WandaVision had. But you can do that with you can do that with Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Damn it! I almost made it through this episode without saying it.
Yeah.
But
you do it too.
So in the airport, we start seeing that the Flag Smashers are stealing supplies from the Power Broker. If you guys don't know who that is, Dad, you are our Marvel encyclopedia. You are aware who the Power Broker is?
So the Power Broker was a kind of a business guy who would, for the right amount of money, would give people super strength. And so he was selling a lot of his, abilities and stuff like that. And so there was a doctor, name escapes me right now, who's involved with it. But for example, like both Battlestar and U.S. Agent, who is John Walker's Captain America, both get augmented by the Power Broker at some point. So which is still, like that is, they haven't really gone there yet with that. So we're not sure if it's, they were already augmented or they're going to become augmented because, but honestly, John is super strong already and seems to be quite in command of things, almost to the point of he's probably already got some type of super soldier serum in it. So there's a lot of history for the Power Broker, and what exactly like they stole is probably the super soldier serum or something along those lines. Then meaning the Flag Smashers, the Carly's character. So because those guys obviously already have super soldier serum in them, and they probably stole more. What their goal is, that's probably will be revealed in maybe the next couple episodes. So.
It seems like we have 3 antagonists in this show. We have the Power Broker. We have the Flag Smasher and her liberation group, and we have John Walker. And now I think this will be all nice and tidied up because people will start working with each other. Because I don't think it's a long shot for the Power Broker to basically tempt John Walker with super soldier serum to help John Walker and his ego take down the Flag Smashers so that he can have that one Captain America win. We did learn that the enhanced soldiers can actually get killed by bullets, so they're not bulletproof. So we know that. And then we have this outside scene, which bleeds right into the ending. So we're just gonna go one big swoop here. So you have Sam and I fucking hate this guy. You have Sam and Bucky. They're walking out of the jail cell. They're free. They're trying to plan what they're gonna do next, and in an extremely heartless action, fucking John just pulls this police siren, and it starts wailing to get their attention. Now, I don't know about you guys, but as a person of color, if I hear of police siren at all and I'm not involved in it, my first reaction is, oh shit. My first reaction is my heart drops. I'm like, what the fuck is about to happen to me? Because it's just something that, and people like me, people of other colors, they experience that. So pulling that fucking, he could have said, hey, he could have said, what's going on? No, he had to pull that police siren just to catch your attention. So I wrote here that it was possibly a trigger moment for Sam or for Bucky, because Bucky got chased by different fucking police forces across the globe. And then he just insists on working together. He's just like, hey man, you got to work with me. No other choice.
I hate this guy.
Clearly an asshole move to pull the siren on him. And honestly, I'll be honest, if I hear a fuck cop car or something come up behind me, even as a white person, I flip the shit out. I'm always like, what the fuck was that? What did I do? But I totally get that that is a trigger moment possibly for Sam. I would say that these guys are probably had worse, being the Avengers, having shit thrown at them, but it's still pretty, kind of again, continuing on that, that systematic,
oppression,
racist kind of tone that the show has been taking on things. Definitely is. And honestly, I thought overall, Wyatt Russell, who's Kurt Russell's son, the guy, the guy's playing John Walker, has done a great job at making, and the writing on the show, of course, has done a great job at trying to again, peel back some of this, starting him off as kind of seeming like a decent guy, and then kind of peeling it back, and now he's like, don't get in my way, because I'm, just don't get in my way.
Yeah, that was a crazy threat. I did not see that coming.
Yeah. They very quickly peeled him back. I thought they would have maybe held off a little bit on that, but But now you, like you said, you've got 3 antagonists. And you're not even like really sure that the Flag Smashers are like what kind of antagonists they are. And you got John. So you got the U.S. government against them. You've got potentially the U.S. government anyways. You got the Flag Smashers, and now you got the Power Broker, who the fuck that is yet we don't know. So I got a feeling there's someone. The Power Broker is probably going to be some type of like giant mega corporation that is being controlled by bad guys.
So Bucky has this idea that he is like, hey, there's possibly one other person that might be able to give us the answers to this super soldier serum. And it is Baron Zemo. Helmut Zemo, I think his name is. And this long, slowly drawn out, operatic, like, chorus and just it is this over the top scene just to end with David Gruel's character, Baron Zemo, just sitting in a cell. But you're giving this aura of like, this is going to be bad. And mainly because we don't know how that scene's going to go. Last time Zemo was with Bucky alone in a room, it did not go well.
Yeah, so I'm really excited to see Helmut Zemo back in the movie. He's a very well-rounded bad guy for Captain America and stuff. Trivia note, which I read, was they show the camera footage that he's in cell 2187, which is actually the same cell that Princess Leia was held on the original Death Star.
Oh my God!
Yeah. So there's anytime someone sees a number on screen, there's probably some meaning, probably a little bit behind them. But that was a cute. It's cell 2187, and that's where Princess Leia was being held on the original Death Star. So I'm really excited to see what happens with him and how he plays into, because I thought he was going to be involved with Petrock and the Flag Smashers, but he's in jail. He's been in jail this whole time. So since Civil War. So it'll be interesting. Also, someone made a reference that Bucky's going to shit his pants if they meet Martin Freeman in this because he played Bilbo from the Hobbit movies. So,
don't forget that Benedict Cumberbatch was the
dragon Smog.
Yeah.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
Star Shadow, what's your opinion? Where do you think this is gonna go?
I really don't know, because the way they're portraying Zemo in the MCU is that he basically his motivation was everything that happened in Age of Ultron, because he's apparently Sokovian in this.
Yep.
So now we don't really know anything about what he's done since the end of Civil War, because we don't know if he's gotten blipped. We don't know if he was just sitting in a jail cell all those 5 years.
That's a good question.
I don't really know what he's been doing this whole time.
My main concern here is, does Bucky still have the programming?
That is something that I think they kind of cleared up in the first episode, which was when the psychologist says, she goes, "You got your mind back, you got your freedom." It seems like that what happened was Shiri was able to unprogram him. So I think that's what they're hinting at, is that he basically can no longer be activated by those terms. So I don't know. It's hard to say.
Apparently, this incredibly gifted genius, because she was also really close to recreating the Mind Stone.
Yeah, there's so much. And that honestly just brings us to the end of this episode. Sadly, no post-credit scene. I don't know what is up with these episodes, but they keep fucking with me with this no post-credit scenes. And then the next episode, they'll do like a previously on, and then they'll include a post-credit scene. And then I have to go back and then rewatch that episode, or at least go through the credits again. But man, I guess they really want they'll pepper them in here back and forth. So let's do a quick little next episode predictions.
They're probably gonna buzz either bust Zemo out of prison, or just like, hey, just go, hey, what's going on?
I mean, we know Zemo gets out at some point out of prison. So whether or not they borrow him and he gets away, I got a feeling probably will be the case. Yeah. They'll probably borrow him for a little while. Or either they bust him out or they come in and they're like, hey, we need access to him. I don't know how they would do that. Again, Sam is only kind of like tangentially working with the U.S. government, and Sam is no longer anything to anyone. So, but it seems like it would be like uncharacteristic of Sam to go in and just like kidnap the guy and basically take him out. They don't really need that kind of level of participation from him. But we know from the trailer he's out and he's got his little purple mask, and which is his comic book outfit. And so I got a feeling that he's somehow going to get out, and he's going to continue his pursuit of like no superheroes. Now, if you got the Flag Smashers who are going to be basically maybe taking this super soldier serum and basically creating like more super soldiers, that's obviously in, contradiction of what Zemo wants. So I'm not sure how they're going to conflict. And then you still have that ALF group, which we met at the beginning of the first show.
God, yeah, there's too many.
Which hasn't even been. Yeah. So I have no idea. Now they could be working for the Global Research or the Global Relocation Council too. As a hammer. So I don't know. There's a lot going on, but I got a feeling we'll see a little bit more progression between Sam, coming to terms with becoming the captain, and hopefully, by the end of the series, we'll have him as captain.
I think that Dr. Rayner in next episode is gonna be revealed to be a super soldier herself, and she's like captain therapist or something. And that's my prediction for next episode. So thank you, Kurt. Thank you, Star Shadow. Thanks for talking. I'm sorry that to our listeners that Moo is not here. We'll be back next week to talk episode 3. This is a bit of a chunky episode, but it was a good one. Thanks for the conversation, guys. And for those listeners, thank you for listening.